Hi guys, it is Vic and Luciano. He is sound asleep and he is a month old, if you guys can believe it. Excuse me. Oh. Sorry, buddy. I am just making a quick ASMR video to tell you guys about my labor story, because I know a lot of you wanted, his faces cracked me up. I know a lot of you wanted to hear the story behind my labor, and at the risk of my husband calling on the house phone, since my cell phone is dead, and telling me he's on his way home, it's probably going to be a quick video. But I just wanted to show you guys the baby and tell you that we are doing well. We're finally adjusting and getting into a routine and getting our sleep. So it's going to be a little while until I can start making ASMR videos regularly. Probably at night when he's sleeping most through the night is when I'll make them. But I just wanted to tell you guys about my labor story because I know a lot of girls wanted to hear how it went. So I'm going to jump right in and get started. Look at this little man. I can't even take it. Oh, he's just, I don't know if this thing is having a hard time focusing. I'm sorry. He is just such a little doll. Oh, we love him to pieces. And I apologize because this looks really blurry. So I don't know. Nope, that won't work. I don't know why this is having a hard time focusing. I'm sorry. Anyways, so I went into labor on May 12th, the day he was born. I was due May 17th, so he came at 39 weeks and he was 6 weeks early. And the day before I went into labor, I was at the doctor and I was not dilated yet at all. He said that my cervix was like very thin, which was in the early stages of labor, but I was not dilated. So my husband and I were getting incredibly frustrated, wondering when he was coming. And you know what? I'm actually going to turn the camera this way and just make it an audio video. I promise I'll do more videos with him, but I just made it an audio because it wasn't focusing. But at least you guys got to see him. So anyways, I was at the doctor the day before, was not dilated whatsoever. And the following day, the day I went into labor, my mom had come over and we went to a sonogram because it was like the very last sonogram they wanted to do. And we went to my sonogram and I was telling the sonogram technician of how I was having really, really low pelvic pain, like incredibly low, like in my private area pelvic pain. And the sonogram technician had said to me, "Are you sure you're not in labor?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not even dilated." And she said, "Well, he's just so low, like his head is so low." And I said, "Oh, okay, well that must be the pelvic pain because his head is like pushing on my cervix, like ready to dilate." So after the sonogram, my mom and I went across the street to Panera and we had lunch, and the pelvic pain just kept getting stronger and stronger. And I was under the assumption that contractions were very high up in the belly. I didn't believe it until I went through it, that labor can happen all kinds of ways, and it can happen different for every woman. And I didn't believe that until I went through it. So we're at Panera and we're eating, and I said to my mom, "We need to go. I'm in a lot of pain." Here I am still thinking that it is Luciano's head, like pushing on my cervix and my pelvis and everything. So my mom's like, are you sure you're not having contractions? Because for my mom, when she had me, her water broke and everything happened for her textbook. I'm like, no, Mom, it's not contractions. I would know. And stupid me, of course, I didn't know. So we left Panera. And of course, my mom's like, my mom was the sweetest lady ever. She's hitting like every bump on the way home, but not on purpose. And I'm like, Mom, the friggin' pain, it hurts. I'm like, stop hitting every bump. And I never talk to her like that. We never argue. She's like, oh, I'm sorry, this and that. So we get in the house and the pain, I had a contraction timer on my phone, like a contraction timer app. So even though I didn't know it was contractions I was having all morning, my mom goes, why don't you start timing these pains and seeing when they're coming? Well, these pains, guys, were every minute, like coming every minute to every 35 seconds. They were so sporadic, like every 45 seconds, every 30 seconds, every minute. It was just all over the board. So again, didn't think it was contractions. So we walk in the house and my mom goes, I'm going to call Nick, my husband. She goes, and tell him to come home. And I'm like, well, don't, because it's just pelvic pain. It's his head. It's the baby's head. She's like, are you sure? I really think I should call him. I'm like, Mom, I'm fine. It's just pain, blah, blah, blah. So I call the doctor and the doctor goes, listen, if the pain gets worse, go to the hospital and we'll check you. The worst that's going to happen is you won't be in labor and we'll send you home. Big deal. I'm like, okay. So my mom goes, why don't you get in the warm shower to alleviate some of the lower back pain and the very low, like in my private area, pelvic pain I was feeling. And I'm like, yeah, that's a good idea. So I get in the shower and the pains are stronger and stronger. And, for those of you who want to hear my labor story, I'm going to tell you all the details and try to spare you some of the grossness of the story. That's not even a word, but I was in the shower and I started bleeding like that time of the month bleeding. It was my mucus plug that came out. And for those of you, I apologize for the men watching this video for ASMR purposes. When your mucus plug falls out, you get what's called a bloody show, and that usually tells you you're in labor. And it can happen at all different times. And everything with labor can happen in a different order. So my water still had not broken. I did not know it. It was my bloody, it's called a bloody show, and I didn't know that's what it was because it was so heavy. I was under the assumption that it was like supposed to be this little light pink showing of whatever, like I read on Google like an idiot. And I called the doctor freaking out. I'm like, I'm bleeding. I'm having pain. I'm bleeding. So the doctor obviously was like, Victoria, I need you to be calm because if you freak out, it's going to make me nervous for you. And I want to be able to give you the best medical advice. She's like, I need you to go to the hospital. And their concern, from what I was telling them, was that it was my placenta was like detaching. They didn't say that. They told me that after. That's what they were concerned with, because when I said I'm bleeding, I'm having pain, I didn't say I'm having contractions and I'm in pain. I said I'm just in pain and I'm bleeding because I didn't know I was having contractions. So my husband comes home from work. Thankfully, he works like not even 5 minutes from the house. He comes home, he changes, he's calm. I have my mom on the house phone calling my mother-in-law, who's a nurse. She's calling my dad and telling my dad, why don't you pack our bags and come up and stay with the dogs, because if we think this is it, we think like Vic is in labor. So my dad's like, oh my God, like all excited and stuff. He's like, call me as soon as you get to the hospital. So we go to the hospital and I'm freaking out because I'm bleeding. And the doctor's like, let's get you in a hospital gown, yada, yada, yada. Let's get you in a labor room. And I'm like, I'm not in labor. I just find out why I'm bleeding and I'm in pain. Now, at this point, even though I'm telling everybody I'm not in labor, I am begging for an epidural because I was in so much pain. I was like, give me my epidural. They said I could have an epidural. I want a friggin' epidural. Like, I'm freaking out. So I apologize, my floor's creaking. So I'm like, I want my epidural and I want it now. So the nurse goes, hold on, Victoria. We have to get you in a hospital gown. We have to start an IV. We have to check you and see if you're in, we have to check you, see if you're in labor, and then start an IV. She goes, and then we have to do blood work and wait a half hour for it to come back before we can administer the epidural to make sure everything's good. So I'm freaking out still about the bleeding, and they check me. And she goes, you are almost 5 centimeters dilated. And I'm like, what? And so my mom calls my dad, and I hear her. She's like, hi, honey. She's like, yep, this is it. The baby's coming, hopefully today. And my dad's like crying. He's so happy. And I'm like, Dad, tell them to give me my epidural. Like, I was in so much pain. So they get me all set up, all hooked up to the IV. And I'm here, of course, like the OCD freak that I am, thinking, oh shit, like my dishes aren't done at home and this is not happening how I planned it. And I'm so scared. And my husband's on the phone with 50 people in the family. My in-laws are divorced, so he had to call my father-in-law. My mother-in-law was on the way up to the hospital, and she's actually a nurse. So I felt a lot better knowing that she was a nurse and that she was coming to the hospital. So it was me, my mom, my husband in the labor room, and my mother-in-law was on her way. Now, mind you, my mother-in-law had hernia surgery 2 days before I went into labor. So she was just getting ready to take her pain medication and go lay down. And she's like, Nicholas, thank God you called me when you did, or I would have been knocked out and missed the whole damn thing. So we're all, at the hospital. My dad, because my parents stayed with us for a few days, obviously, they watched the dogs and they stayed at the house while we were in the hospital. Now, this is the Friday before Mother's Day, mind you. And the irony here is that my husband was born on Father's Day, on his birthday that he was born Father's Day. And this Father's Day, June 18th, is his birthday, and he's 7 years younger than me, it's taken him 28 years to get another birthday on Father's Day. So his first Father's Day is also his birthday, the same day he was born. It's just crazy how this all worked out. Okay, so anyways, the doctor comes in to administer the epidural after they have me all hooked up and my blood work comes back. And I'm not even like scared about the epidural. I literally don't give a shit because needles don't scare me. I'm just like, give me my freaking drugs. I want the epidural. Give it to me now. So the doctor does the epidural. They kick my mom and my husband out of the room because nobody can be in the room except the nurse when you get your epidural. And I personally felt a small bee sting, kind of almost like what it feels like if you get a tattoo, like a small prick bee sting, and it lasted a minute. I felt kind of warm and tingly in my legs. It did not hurt at all, but that's me. I think I have a pretty high pain tolerance because clearly I was laboring all morning at home and didn't know it. I was very proud of myself. I kind of felt like a warrior after I went through all that. So, so they give me my epidural, and my mother-in-law had just shown up. So after they let my husband and my mom back in the room, my mother-in-law came in. She gave me a kiss. And I really appreciated having her there because she was able to read the monitors and stuff and tell me what was going on whenever the nurse had stepped out. So we had got to the hospital around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The doctor on call comes in and he goes, well, hi, Victoria, I'm going to check you and, see where you're at, blah, 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 blah. So he checks me and he goes, so you're still at 5 centimeters. And I'm like, oh God. And you have to obviously be fully dilated 10 centimeters to push. And he goes, just so you know, we usually typically most women dilate about 1 centimeter an hour. So we're going to be here a while. And I'm like, you got to be effing kidding me. Like, I just wanted this baby out. I was over it, just over the whole thing. So he comes back an hour later to check on me. And he goes, hello, Victoria, I'm going to check on you again. And I'm like, oh, just let's get this over with. Like, I just was over being there. I hate hospitals. It was not a good time. And the funny thing was, It's not like I was in a crazy amount of pain. I wanted to not only meet my baby, but I just wanted to get the hell out of that labor room. Like, I hate hospitals. So he checks me again and he goes, okay. He goes, well, I'm going to scrub up. You're 10 centimeters. You're fully dilated now. And my mom goes, he goes, and I apologize. I left the part out that in between the waiting, that hour, they came in and broke my water. Because my water didn't break on its own. So they broke it, which it didn't hurt at all. So after my water had been broken, about half hour later was when he came back and checked on me at the hour mark. And I went from 5 centimeters to getting my water broken to fully dilated, all in 1 hour. So, and this was obviously spread out throughout the day. So it's like 8 o'clock at night, and my doctor, it was the doctor on call at the hospital that broke my water and checked me, and then my doctor that was on call came in to deliver the baby. And she's this adorable, like, little Indian girl who I absolutely adore. She's so cute. So she comes like walking in with her like designer purse, and she's like, hi, we're going to have a baby today. I'm like, yeah, let's get this friggin' over with. Like, I'm over this. So it's 8 o'clock at night, and everybody's just kind of like hyped up on adrenaline. So the nurse goes, well, you're only allowed to have 2 people in here. And my mom piped up and she goes, well, that's my daughter, my son-in-law's mother, and she's a nurse, and, this is her first grandchild too. Can she stay? And my doctor had walked in at that point, and she goes, yeah, I don't care. She's already a nurse. She's seen this stuff a million times. Just let her stay. So it was my husband, my mom, and my mother-in-law all in the room when the baby was born. And my mom and I are very close, so there was no way I was going to ask her to leave. So everybody scrubs up. It's like 8 o'clock at night, and what they make you do is they were telling me that we were going to do some practice pushes. I'm like, practice pushes? I want to push this baby out. Like, let's get this show on the road. And they're like, well, the baby has to come down the birth canal, and that takes a little while, but it shouldn't take that long. And the thing is when you push, when you have a vaginal delivery and you're pushing, there's a certain way you have to push. You have to grab like the back of your legs, and you have to bear down like you're going to the bathroom, number 2, and you have to push with your, like you're going number 2. I, obviously, first time mom, I was exhausted, I was scared, I was nervous, and what had happened was my husband later told me that, I didn't hear her say this, but the doctor came in and said, turn off her epidural so she can feel what she's pushing. Now, I did not hear the doctor say this, thank God, because I would have been totally freaked out. So the pains kept getting more intense with every push I was doing. And I'm not going to lie, every part of labor, yeah, it sucks. It's not fun. It's not a walk in the park. But the hardest part for me was pushing, because I literally could feel everything. And I'm not going to be gross, but I am going to be honest for those of you who wanted honesty. It kind of felt like the baby was coming out the other end of me, not the front. So that's what was really kind of hard for me to wrap my brain around, was kind of getting comfortable in such a short amount of time with the sensation that, okay, am I going to like poop this baby out, or what's happening here? So, this started at 8 o'clock at night, and Luciano was born at 10:24. So I pushed for 3 hours, and halfway through, I was just so tired, and I was like, I want a C-section. I don't want to push anymore. Like, I just want this over with. And he was already like head was showing, like all I had to do was do the work to get him out. And it was just it's the story behind it. Like, obviously, I would say if you guys could see it, but nobody wanted to see that. It was kind of like bittersweet and funny. Like, it was comical now that I look back on it, because my mom's like, Victoria, come on, you need to push. Stop pushing with your face. That's like the ongoing joke, that I was pushing with my face, and kind of like trying to psych everyone out that I was pushing, because I was so tired. I didn't want to do it anymore. And my husband's like, Vic, this is bullshit. Like, I love you. I know you're in pain, but you're pushing with your face. You're not bearing down. You need to listen to the doctor. And I'm like, I need a nap. I'm hungry. I can't do this anymore. Like, it was exhausting. So finally, like I said, 10/24, he was born. I just was like, you know what? I'm going to give it one final go. I'm going to give them every bit of strength and energy I have inside me to push him out, and I'm just going to do it. And once his head came out and I just like pushed even a little, it was almost like after babies' heads come out for me, it was almost like he fell out. And I saw his two little feet, and my mom and my mother-in-law obviously could, because he was down, my feet were in the stirrups, so I couldn't see past my knees, but I could see his two little feet, and my mother-in-law and my mom and my husband, everybody's bawling and crying, and they're like, he's here, he's here. And my big thing was I didn't want him put on me until he was cleaned off because I was squeamish. But the second I saw his two little feet, I was like, give me my baby. And like they put him on me, and he was crying, and I started singing the song to him that I sang when I was pregnant. And he looked at me. I'm like getting emotional telling this story again. And he looked at me like he knew I was his mom, and which he probably did, but he knew exactly what I was saying. I was just like, oh my gosh, we waited so long for you. And he was just so attentive and just beautiful, perfect skin tone, and just gorgeous. And my husband is emotional, but he's not like a crier. And I looked over at him and I was like, thank you so much for this gift, And he was just bawling, like tears falling from his face. And he was like, he's beautiful, he's beautiful. And I did tear, so they had to stitch me up, and it took a while to stitch me up. So as they were stitching me up, they were kind of like adjusting my IVs and like letting me have my skin on skin time with the baby. And then I said, somebody give me my phone. I want to call my dad, because my dad was at my house watching my dogs. I called my dad and I said, Dad, do you want to come to the hospital and meet your grandson? And he started bawling and just, oh, I'm so proud of you, my girl, this and that. And it was just a beautiful experience, but it was hard because it was my first time. I was in labor all day and didn't know it. But I am very fortunate because the way everything happened for me, went to the hospital at 2:00. He was born at 10:24 at night, and how quickly I dilated. Like, a lot of my pregnant friends have said, you are very blessed, and definitely like the angels were watching over you because you were very fortunate to have the kind of labor experience you had. So that was it. After he came out and he was all cleaned up, they kind of took me over in the labor room. They have like a shower that they let you sit on a chair in there and kind of rinse off and stuff, because I was obviously a hot mess. And then you have to spend, you have to spend 2 hours in the labor room downstairs in labor and delivery. So by about 1 a.m., they wheeled us upstairs to the maternity floor. And my husband slept that night. I didn't get any sleep, maybe 45 minutes, because I was just so hyped up on adrenaline. And aside from that, obviously, I had to get a lot of stitches, so I was in quite the amount of pain. And the nurses kept coming in, like they come in to check on you to make sure your uterus goes back down to like its original size. And it was just crazy. But I will tell you, a big fear for me was like seeing all the blood and like just the gross stuff. And these doctors, I don't care where you deliver, these doctors know what they're doing. They work so quick and so diligently that I didn't see any of it. No placenta, no nothing. Like, everyone was like, oh my God, did you see that? I didn't see a thing. I was just so fixated on the baby and the way they wrap everything up and do it quick, so that, like, I think the women don't get scared. They're really good about that. So yeah, this was Friday, May 12th, and at 10:24, and he was 7 pounds, 3 ounces, 21 inches long. And then they discharged us on Mother's Day. So it was very, very emotional, because I kind of felt like with all the other moms on the maternity ward, I told my husband, I kind of felt like I was part of something that was very, not bittersweet, but like I felt like I was kind of an elite group with all these other women who were, I don't know, second, third, first babies, but that were moms on Mother's Day. So it was beautiful. I mean, it was hard and it hurt. And when they say you forget about the pain and you would do it all over again, I will say, I don't know if we're going to have any more kids, but it is true. I look now and I'm like, holy crap, a month has gone by and he's developing a personality and his looks are changing. And it's just so crazy that every piece of advice everybody told me about how it just seems like a blur in the distant past is so true. And it's just so wild to think that I did that. Like, I told my husband I'm not looking for a pat on the back or credit, but I told him when we were in the hospital, I said, I feel like just such power because he came out of me and I did that. Like, yes, obviously my husband helped create him, but to physically push a baby out, it's very empowering. Well, for me anyways. So it gave me a sense of like, look what my body can do. It's amazing what women's bodies can do. And it's amazing to think back a month ago and he wasn't even here. And I'm like, I did that. I pushed him out and he came out. And it's just crazy. So yeah, that's my labor story. And I'm probably leaving out details because a lot of funny stuff happened. The ongoing joke, our nurse's name was Karen. And my husband was like, Karen, you're going to need a pill when you're done with my wife, because I was driving everybody crazy. I was just like, I'm hot, I'm cold, I'm having a panic attack because I feel too constricted with all these IVs in me. And I'm like, I was just driving everybody crazy. So, but at the end of the day, like my husband said, he goes, I'm just so proud of you. You did it. And, you just are much stronger than you think you are and that you give yourself credit for. And it's true. So yeah, women's bodies are amazing, what we can do. And he's here and he's healthy and he's beautiful. So I promise I will feature him in some more videos, but I just wanted to share that story because I know so many people were like inboxing me and they were like, Vic, please do a video about your labor story. And that is it. But I promise I will be back with ASMR soon. And thank you so much for all the support and all the well wishes. I can't wait for you guys to watch him grow because he's just a joy. But yeah, that's it. And I will see you guys in the next video. Have a good night.